So today we're going to do the handover video on this Chausson 656 first line edition. We're going to start on the outside and then we're going to move on to the inside. So as you can see, the van hasn't had a valet yet, so please look past that. Obviously it'll all be ready for you when you collect on the day. I just wanted to get this video out to you so you can have a good watch of it before you come to collect. So firstly, if we come over to your passenger side, you'll notice that you've got your fill up point. In here you've got your diesel, which is just above, your AdBlue, which is again below the diesel point. That has all been topped up, but that's where you can obviously fill it from. If I open up the passenger door as well, you will notice that you have got a bonnet release catch, which is here. If I pull that, that will release the bonnet. Now there's not many things that you need to know underneath here. The main things that you need to know is if you're ever going to jump start the vehicle. I'll lift the bonnet now and show you where that can be done from. And just like that, the bonnet is open. So to jump start it for your negative terminal, you've got this little nipple here. It just connects onto there for your negative. And your positive is just located underneath this cap here. There's a little plus sign on there. I don't know whether you can see it on the video. You just need a little key just to pop this out, and then that will release so you can access the little tab that obviously the positive terminal goes onto. So that's your negative and your positive sorted. They're the main things that you need to know, but just to point out a couple more, you've got your engine oil here, which as you can see is nice and accessible. You've also got your brake disc fluid, which is just above that, along with your engine coolant, and your power steer and your washer fluid is just there at the back, which you can access. Your power steering fluid, I believe, is just below that. Moving on the side of the vehicle, you can see there is an awning fitted to the vehicle. If you'd like, I can show you how the awning works on the day. As you can appreciate, it's just me filming this video today, so it's going to be a bit difficult for me to get that out on my own, so it'll be easier if I show you that in person. Just a rule of thumb with the awning though is if it is windy, please ensure that the awning is put back, and if it is caught in the rain, the awning needs a day or so just to dry out completely. On this side, you'll notice that you've got your 230-volt hookup points, so when you're on your pitch and your campsite, you'll plug into 230 volts, which will just connect onto there. Next to that, you've then got your convenience locker. So in here, I'll open this up for you now. In here is where your fuses are located, along with your RCD breaker. So if the vehicle ever trips, you can come to this point here. You can see the fuses are just next to there as well. On the other side, you've got your fresh water tank. This will hold approximately 120 litres, and to fill this up, all you need to do is unscrew the black cap, and using a food grade hose pipe, the hose pipe can simply go into there and fill up the entire fresh water tank. You will also notice that you have got a big black cap here, which can of course remove and twist off should you need it. The only time you'll need to do that is if you're ever wanting to clean out the tank. Obviously don't do that whilst there's water in the vehicle, but as I say, you'll only need to do that when you are cleaning out the tank. Now I personally don't recommend drinking out the fresh water tank. As you can appreciate, it is plastic at the end of the day. I just recommend if you're drinking out of it, use bottled water. If you're boiling the water through the kettle, you're absolutely fine to drink it, but as I say, that's my advice on that. This also brings us, this convenience locker, to your first drain down points in the vehicle. You've got three main drain down points in the van. You've got one linked to the fresh water tank itself, one linked to the wastewater tank itself, and one linked to your boiler drain down point. Now, what we say is, as a rule of thumb, is if you are using the vehicle, obviously get all your water in the van, and then you can operate the systems on board, which I'll show you how to do. But when you are moving off site and you're not using the vehicle, make sure all your drain down points are completely drained. I often recommend doing that in the summer as well, but especially this time of year, to ensure there's no frozen water in the system. Now, your fresh water tank, you've got two drain down points linked to this. Your first drain down point is actually located in here. As you can see, this little grey lever can flick up or down. That is in essence a quick drain down point. So as I mentioned earlier, this is actually a 120 litre fresh water tank. If you wanted to drain down the entire tank just to 20 litres, all you need to do is flick that up, that lever, go onto the inside of the van, and run the pump. The pump will then force water out and will drain the entire thing down to 20 litres. Now you're probably thinking, why on earth would I want to do that? That is there for, say for example, you've finished on site, you move into another one, and you want to keep a little bit of water in for a cup of tea on the way or anything like that. You can travel with 20 litres. They recommend, the manufacturer, travelling with 20 litres to ensure you know, it's safe in terms of, you know, water load, weight distribution, and obviously your available payload in the van. So if you are travelling with water, just travel with 20 litres. Underneath is actually your main drain down point. As you can see, you've got a little sticker here which indicates that, and that is obviously located underneath the van. I'll just get under the van now for you. Okay, so we're now underneath the vehicle. As you can see, you've got 2 drain down points here, or 3 pipes rather. Let's go from there. So your first pipe, this one here, is a breather pipe, so don't worry about anything being on that. That can stay as it is. Your pipe further down is actually linked to that tap that I showed you before, and is linked to your quick drain down point, so you can flick that up and drain down that, and that's what it comes out of. But obviously, providing that is down, it's going to be sealed, so you don't need anything on the end. And then for the wastewater tank itself, you've got this little white lever fitted. To drain that down, you need to turn this, and that will drain down the entire tank. And obviously, you can leave that open as you are travelling. When you're on site, you will have a big grid that you can get under, turn that, and that will drain, as I say, everything out. If you drain down the majority of the water on site, and then as you're travelling home, leave that open, the vibrations of the road will ensure that all the bits and bobs, you know, remaining in the tank are out, and it's ready for use next time. You can do that with all your drain down points, because at the end of the day, it is just water, so there's not going to be any harm in that. Okay, so we're now moving on from the convenience locker and going up to your habitation door. You will also notice you've got another one of them stickers that indicates another drain down point, and this is for your wastewater drain down point. This is a little bit simpler. All you need to do, you can see you've got a black valve there. All you need to do is pull that towards you, and that will drain down the entire wastewater tank. Do the same as I said for the fresh water. Once you're on site and you'll have a big grid, get level with that, simply pull that open, and that will drain and drop all the water. And then you can leave that open as you're travelling home. So that's how you do that. Before we go on the inside of the van, you'll notice you've got a garage door here, which is nice and accessible into the back should you need it. And around the back of the vehicle, you've got, of course, provisions for a bike rack, which will be going on. And then just up at the top, you've got your reversing camera as well. As I mentioned, the van is filthy at the moment, just needs a good clean. But I just wanted to get this video out to you. So moving on, you've then got your WC. This is where your toilet cassette is, of course, stored. Before removing this, please ensure that the blade on the toilet is closed. If it is open, what will happen is you'll go to remove this, it will get caught and potentially get stuck, and if you force it, it will obviously break. Please ensure that that blade is always closed, and I'll show you how to do that when we're on the inside of the vehicle. To empty it, all you need to do, pull up on this orange tab like so, and then you can simply remove the cassette, and out it comes. To drain this down, I'll just pop the cassette on the floor and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so with the cassette out, all you need to do is simply pull the funnel out, remove the cap, and then click the orange button at the back. That will release an internal vacuum, and that will allow you to empty the entire cassette. Once you've done that, you can put a bit of water in here just to swill it out, and again drain that down. And if you are using blue fluid instead of the toilet sachets, you can stick that in the top of this funnel or the lid. It's got a little measurement on there, and then you can stick that straight in and obviously tighten it back up. Once you've done that, it's good to go back in, and like so, just pull the funnel back into place. Before I do put it back though, you will notice you've got this orange lever as well. This does turn and things. This is what makes contact with the blade when you open and close it, and allows you to open and close the cassette. This should always stay in this position. You should never ever need to move that. If that is off slightly, it's not going to go back into its position, so you need to always ensure that that isn't moved and it stays as it is. Okay, putting it back, all you need to do is simply slide it into its location let that slide in and lock in with the latch there, and then it's nice and secure and not going anywhere during transit. Next to that, you've got your fridge vents, as you can see. Just bear in mind, if it is obviously a warm day, try and keep this area under shade, or potentially turn the van around away from the sun, as this is of course where the fridge pulls all of its air from. It'll just allow it to work a little bit more efficiently. On the outside, you've also got a vent for your Truma heating. This is obviously for your water heating. So when you're stationary and you're actually using the heating, you need to remove the cap. So as it is now, that's how it needs to be. But you will have a cap on the inside of the vehicle, which you can then slot on for when you're travelling, because you don't want any mud or anything getting down into that, into the filter. So ensure when you're travelling, the cap goes on, and when you're stationary and using the tank or the boiler rather, that comes off. And finally, on the outside, you'll notice that you've got your gas locker, which is just in here. I'll open that up for you now. Just like that, it will gain you access to the locker. You can see your metal regulator has been connected there. All you'll need is, once your gas bottle's in, a pigtail which will connect the regulator to, of course, the gas bottle, and then you can turn your gas on for that to throw through. Please ensure that when you're travelling, that gas is of course turned off at the bottle. You don't want to be travelling with any gas on for safety. Okie dokie, so as we walk through the habitation door, we've concluded the outside, we're moving on to the inside. And as you walk through, you'll notice on the right hand side you've got your control panel. So on your control panel, you can see you've got your main master switch, which is here. Hold that to turn everything off, and press it on to obviously activate everything. It's worth bearing in mind as well, if you want the solar panel to work on this vehicle, you need to have this green light on all the time, because that will allow the solar panel to obviously be activated and trickle charge your battery. Next up, you've then got your lighting. That's a master switch or an isolator switch for your lighting itself, but obviously you have got individual switches here to turn off your individual lights. Next up, you've then got your pump button. If you click that, that will activate your pump. Now, when you're on site, obviously fill up with fresh water and then click the pump on. You don't want to run the pump without any water in the system. Once you've done that, click the pump, go to all of your taps, and including your shower, you need to turn them all on and turn them to hot. That will pull up fresh water from the freshwater tank into the boiler and then out of your tap. When it's running steadily and it stops spurting and spluttering, flick it over to cold and let it do the same thing. When it's running steadily, you've primed your system. As I say, you need to do that for all your taps. Now, the reason I tell you to do it on hot first is it will pull water from the freshwater tank into the boiler, priming the boiler. So then when you turn your heating on, if that's the first thing you do, obviously it holds about 10 litres of water, so it is naturally going to take a bit of time to get that up to temperature. So with that in mind, if that's the first thing you do, by the time you've got everything ready on the vehicle, your water should be up to temperature and ready to use. One final thing about the pump as well is, once it's primed and providing you've got water in the system, you can leave your pump on, because on all your taps you've got a micro switch which will activate and deactivate the pump whenever you need it. Coming back up to the control panel now, you've also got another light here, light switch. That's for your awning light on the outside, or your door light if you like. And then beneath this you've got your habitation battery level. We're not plugged in, as you can see, so it's just reading just above 50%. You've then got your vehicle battery level. Again, similar level. When you've given that a run, it'll get up to 100%. You've then got your freshwater tank level. So it's got a little bit in at the moment. And then you've got a brightness button here as well, so you can change obviously the brightness of the screen. You will notice for your wastewater tank, you've not got a specific button, you've just got an icon. That will light up red when it is, of course, time to empty that tank. Now, if we come into the kitchen area, you can see that you've got your hobs here. You've got your electric hob and obviously your gas hobs, which is quite nice, and a really good bit of storage in this vehicle as well. On the other side, you'll notice you've got your fridge. For your fridge, all you need to do to turn it on is hold the system like so. this is a three-way fridge. So I'm just going to turn this off for the time being because I've not got any fuel in the fridge. But just to explain, you've got a three-way system. There's three ways to power it. You can power it off your electric, your 12-volt leisure battery, or your gas. Now, at the moment, I've not got any options yet. Now, to turn it on, all you need to do is, as I say, click that button, and that will give you the icons, as you can see. Using this button here, you can then flick between the options of what you've got. Like so. Now, the A button stands for auto, and that will automatically assign whichever fuel you've got in the vehicle. Now, at the moment, it's choosing gas by default because I've not got anything, but if I was hooked up, it would automatically assign it and run the fridge off your 230 volts. So with that A in mind, there's not really any reason for you to knock it off that automatic function. But if you wanted to do it manually, you can do so just by tapping the screen like so. Okay. Now, as I say, there's three ways to power it. If you're on site, you're going to be using your hookup cable. If you're wild camping, you'll be using your gas. And if you're traveling, you'll be using your 12-volt leisure battery. Now, what a lot of people think is when you're traveling, when you're stationary, you're wild camping, shall we say, you're off grid, you can run the fridge off your 12-volt leisure battery. That isn't the case. You'll simply get an error code. It'll start flashing at you. The reason for that is it will not allow you to run the fridge off a 12-volt leisure battery because it simply draw and drain all of its power. So with that in mind, when you're wild camping, it's only off your gas. But then when you're travelling, because this vehicle has got a built-in alternator, it will send power from the vehicle battery to your leisure battery, which will then allow you to power your fridge. So they're the main things that you need to know. To point out a couple more things as well, on this side you've got a switch here so you can change the temperature of the fridge should you need it. And what I'll do is I'll just open the fridge up for you now. You've got your freezer up at the top, fridge below. If you want frozen things to be in the freezer, put frozen things in there, and cool things to be in the fridge. Don't just put things that have already been cool in there, as the fridge will do a really good job at maintaining the temperature. It does struggle slightly, however, on getting things down to temperature. So just bear that in mind. It's obviously not as powerful as your domestic fridge. Before I move on from the kitchen area as well, coming away from your fridge, I just thought I'd mention, underneath here you have got a gas valve. As you can see, it's a grey tap. That's an isolator switch that. It will turn on and off areas of the vehicle. You might find a few more around the vehicle. That should always stay as it is. You don't need to turn them. They're really just for the technicians when working on the motorhome. I've just walked past your two beds as well at the back. These are bunk beds, obviously. To turn this into a bit of a garage, this does flip forward, or flip back rather. And this area, obviously your garage door can then open and you can use this as a garage. Again, I'm happy to show you that on handover, should you want me to. In the bathroom area, we've obviously discussed about priming your system for your fresh water on all your taps and your shower. The main thing that I need to talk you through is what I mentioned outside, is your actual blade on your toilet. So the blade that I keep referencing to is this plastic piece here. If you push it away from you, it opens it. Pull it towards you, it closes it. So when the cassette is in use, you of course need to push that away and keep that open so all the waste can drop into the cassette. Once you've done that, click the blue button, which is just on there. That will activate your flush and that will empty the system, or flush it into the cassette rather. Once you've done that, you can then pull it towards you and close the system. Now, the reason you close the blade is two reasons. The main reason being is it stops any odours from escaping, but it also gets you into the habit of having that closed, so every time you come to remove the cassette, you're not having that issue where it's getting stuck. Coming back over to your flush button, please bear in mind that it's this obviously blue button here. You do need your pump on for that to activate. And as you can see, when you get a red light, that just indicates that the cassette is full. Currently, we've got a bit of water in there with some disinfectant, just to clean out the cassette, hence why it's reading red. But that's all you need to know. Alright. Also, just whilst we're here, just to point out a bit more storage as well in the bathroom area, as you can see. So coming out of the your bathroom area, and before we move any further onto your lounge, I just wanted to come back to your control panel just to talk you through your heating and the remaining things, what's left. So we've been through obviously the main panel there. You've then got Webasto heating fitted to this vehicle. This is a diesel heater, so as you're travelling you can run your heating, which is nice, in the vehicle. And this is just for the vehicle's space heater. It's not for the vehicle's water heating, it's just simply for the heating on the inside of the van. Now don't worry about it, you know, draining your tank full of diesel. It won't, it's quite efficient. And also if your diesel tank is at a critical low level, it will just cut itself off. It's got its own exhaust system, which is actually located on the underside of the van, and this is the dial how you activate it. All you need to do is turn that dial to 100%, to full, and then you can obviously adjust that depending on the temperature. You've got a temperature gauge just at the side of it, that's just a sensor, and I forgot to mention there's just a couple lights here as well for some of your mood lighting underneath your kitchen. Just bear in mind as well with the Webasto is when you do turn that on, all your lights in the vehicle will flicker. The reason for that is it's just priming your system and it's powering up, so it just draws so much electric, it's a bit of a surge. So with that in mind, it will flicker for about 15 minutes, and when you turn it off it will do the same because it's just powering down the system, just so you are aware. Moving through to the lounge, you can see that up here you have got a point for a telly to go into. You'll obviously need an aerial fitted, and just right in the back you've also got your solar panel regulator. Now your solar panel, you can leave it as it is, you don't need to do anything with that. That regulator will regulate how much charge the leisure battery is getting. You've also a nice bit of storage as well in there. Moving into the lounge area, as you can see you've got a really spacious lounge in here. It's worth noting before I talk you through the bed setups, you have got these ledges here. As you can see, you've got a piece of board here that simply slots into there, and then you can then use the infill cushion, slot that onto there, and it will just give you a nice lounge area, and it will just divide it from the front section, which is, again, very useful to know. Now your bed situation here, you've got two, obviously a really big size bed up at the top for two up here. That does of course lift up like so, just to allow you to get into the cab a little bit easier. You've then got an option of making this into a single bed should you need to. It's quite a small bed admittedly, but it's just there if you ever need it. Obviously these come off should you need to. This is your main second bed in the living area if you're not using the bunks, that is. To drop this and make this into a bed, you need to take the leg off. You can see it's half there, that leg comes off. Then the table just rests onto these little ledges across here, and then that creates the base of this bed. You've then got two infill cushions, they're currently on the top bed, and they just slot into there to create a small double there as well. And again, I'm happy to show you that on handover as well. Moving on to the actual final drain down point and the final controls really of what you need to know for your boiler is of course your boiler drain down point. Just bear with me. As you can see, I've just dismantled this area here. I've just pulled out the cushions, and this is where your boiler is of course located. The main thing that you need to know on the boiler is obviously how to drain it down. So just remove this wooden panel here, and as you can see in here is where your drain down point is for that boiler. The boiler is probably the most important drain down point. You need to always ensure this is drained when the vehicle is not in use, because you don't want that boiler, as I say, getting frozen water in the system, because it's very, very expensive to replace. With that in mind, to drain it down, all you need to do is flick this yellow valve up, and that will drain down the fresh water tank. You can probably hear that draining down now. We had a bit of water in there from when we primed it on its PDI. And to close it, all you need to do is flick that down like so, and that will seal the unit. You can flick it down either way, but it needs to be flicked down to close and up to open, so it's dead simple. Obviously, if you forget to flick that down when the vehicle's in use, water will just simply drain out the bottom of the van. So please ensure that when in use is down, and when not in use, it goes up. So before I move on to the final bit of the handover, on all your windows you've got blackout blinds just like so, and also fly screens that pull down, and you've also got, you push these in, these little levers, windows that do of course open but you do need to push in the little lever just for it to release. These are on a little ratchet system, so if you push it, you'll hear a click and that'll stop it into position. If you want to take it all the way up, you can do, and then to pull down, just take it all the way up and pull down like so. You can of course put these windows on venting. You've got an option just to put them on venting, just to allow a little bit of airflow through, but please ensure that you do close them before travelling. And finally, we've got your boiler drain down point controls, and where they are located. They're actually just located behind the driver's seat, sorry, the passenger seat. Might be a little bit difficult to show you on the actual video, but you can see that you've got your controls, which are just round there. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get a different angle on this. I'm just going to come round, just get a better angle for you so you can see it. Okie dokie, so this is a slightly better angle, as you can see. So these are your control panels for your heating. Now, as I say, on the outside you need to remove that vent or that cover on the vent so it can obviously operate. And this is obviously directly for your vehicle's heating, for the water, that is. At the top, you can run the system off gas. At the moment, it's turned off. You know that because the switch is in the off position. You can then press the switch either up or down. Up will allow you to run the system and run it off 50 degrees, or up to 50 degrees, and then down is approximately 70 degrees. So you'll run it off 70 degrees, obviously, when you're first on site to get it up to temperature, but also when you're washing up. And 50 degrees you'll have when you're obviously having a shower and things like that. And as I say, in the centre, as you can see, that is the off button. So that one's for your gas, and below is the exact same control, but that one is for your electric. So depending on where you're using the van, if you're on site, obviously you'll be running it off electric. So you've got the up switch, which will allow you to run it off 50 degrees, up to 50 degrees rather, and the down switch, which will allow you to run it off 2 kilowatt electric, which is approximately 70 degrees, to again get it up to temperature. And in that middle position there, it is off. So it's dead easy and dead handy to get to. And that concludes the handover video on the Chausson 656 first line. I hope you enjoyed.